I'm not gonna waste your time. Most of our mental suffering comes from this one thing. That one thing is mindlessly following what your thoughts say. Most people don't know this, but your thoughts are not on your side. They have their own various agendas that are not always aligned with what is best for you. The key to success in any aspect of life, and the key to eliminating your mental suffering, is mastering your thoughts. After you finish this video, you will have a different view on life, and you will know how to start mastering your thoughts. The first thing you need to understand is that you are not your thoughts. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Just observe your thoughts. You should notice an endless conveyor belt of thoughts that keep flowing. I want you to try and stop these thoughts. Try and think nothing for 30 seconds. Impossible, right? If you aren't creating these thoughts and you can't stop them, how could they possibly be you? So what are you then? You are the observer of them. You are the person standing at the conveyor belt of thoughts, choosing which thoughts to give power to. 99% of people have no idea about this. Most people think that these thoughts are them. They stand right at the conveyor belt, giving power and attention to every thought that flows down it. This is extremely detrimental, and it leads to absurd amounts of suffering. If they get a thought telling them to be stressed, they listen. If they get a thought telling them to indulge in addiction, they listen. If they get a thought cutting them down, they listen to that too. How can you get anywhere in life when this is how you operate? I was like this for the vast majority of my life. For the longest time, I was no different than a robot, blindly obeying my thoughts and living in the terrible state that put me in. Everyone should be standing far away from the conveyor belt, only giving power and attention to thoughts that serve them. Become the observer of your thoughts. Don't be at their mercy. When you do this, you can notice when a negative thought surfaces and consciously starve it of attention, not giving it any power. These thoughts rely on your power and attention to survive. When you remove those things, they have no choice but to starve and die off. The human mind is an incredibly complex system. It's almost impossible to understand each thought's reason for appearing. Instead, I'll give you a mental model to observe your thoughts through. Imagine there are two aspects of you, your higher self and your lower self. Your higher self wants you to pursue your absolute highest potential to the best of your ability. It wants nothing but the best for you. Your lower self wants comfort and instant gratification, and it will relentlessly pursue that even if it destroys you. As you can see, these two sides have conflicting interests. The war between your higher and lower self is always happening within you, and your thoughts are the soldiers that they use to fight for them. Every single one of your thoughts is a part of this war. The two sides fight by sending thoughts down the endless conveyor belt to sway you into acting the way that they want you to. It's like in cartoons where there's a scene of an angel and a devil on the character's shoulders, trying to persuade the character into acting a certain way. You are the observer and the one really in control. You control your attention, and when you give attention to a thought, you empower the side of you that sent it. When a side is empowered, it has an easier time swaying you, and you become more like that side. When you listen to thoughts sent by your lower self, you become more like the lower self, chasing comfort and instant gratification. The direction of your life literally depends on this war. We want the higher self to win the war. So how do you go about destroying the lower self? You have to start by understanding it fully. It sounds nice and easy at first because obviously you don't want to become like the lower self, but it's not that simple. If you're used to listening to the lower self and acting how it wants you to act, it will be difficult to change. Right now, you are probably easily manipulated by the lower self because the thoughts it sends are very enticing. When it sends you a thought about comfort or pleasure, you will be drawn to it. It will sound nice to go sit down and watch Netflix rather than start working. The lower self knows exactly what to say to make you give in. You have to start to understand what evil really lies behind that thought. To the lower self, it doesn't matter if you have no money, no partner, and no friends, so long as you have a way to be comfortable and get cheap pleasure. The lower self works tirelessly to bring its paradise into fruition. When you give a thought sent by the lower self any attention, you are empowering it, letting it continue to work towards its paradise. Without a doubt, 100% of the time, this happens. There's no way around it. You cannot give in to the lower self, or it will only get stronger in its pursuit of your destruction. This might all sound like a joke or an exaggeration, but it is very serious. To succeed in any part of life, change is necessary. Comfort is the mortal enemy of change. To succeed in any part of life, it takes patience and consistency because nothing is instant. Instant pleasure is the complete opposite of that. It doesn't matter what your definition definition of success is, this still applies. The lower self is the complete inversion of what it takes to succeed. You cannot afford to feed it ever again. The first step to winning this war is understanding the seriousness of what I've just explained. The second step to destroying your lower self is to never give attention to a thought sent by it. This is easier said than done, but you get much better over time. You need to start by being able to identify which thoughts to give attention to. Looking through the mental model of the higher and lower self, you should be able to easily distinguish if a thought has your best interest in mind. You must still think critically though. Thoughts can deceive you and won't always plainly indicate their motive. You might think a thought of fear is your higher self trying to protect you, but it is really your lower self trying to keep you comfortable. You might think a thought congratulating you on your progress is your higher self, but it is really your lower self trying to get you to slow down, stay comfortable, and reward yourself with pleasure. You know a thought is trying to trick you when it leads to an action that the lower self would want you to take. Always follow the chain of actions that the thought is trying to lead you down. For example, when I used to consume adult content, sometimes I would get a thought telling me to open Reddit and browse a regular forum. I knew that if I followed that thought, I would get more and more thoughts, each of which inching me closer and closer to ending up on adult content again. The lower self has all the time in the world, and it knows what to say to make you do what it wants. It can play the long game, sending you one thought, which leads to another thought, and another, leading you on a string right to where it wants you to be. You will get better at understanding which thoughts to give attention to as you become better at being the observer and separating yourself from your thoughts. After you identify that a thought is trying to manipulate you, you have to firmly put yourself in the position of the observer. Completely withdraw your attention from the thought. No arguing, no correcting, no judging. Just cut off all your attention and bring it back to the present moment. There are a number of ways you can do this, but the most common is manual breathing. The thought will always pass. Just stay focused on the present moment as long as you need to. You might get other thoughts that try and correct or argue with the manipulative thought, but these are also a trap. Remember, you are the observer of your thoughts and never the thoughts themselves. I've faced thousands of thoughts like these before. People like to believe that these thoughts are more powerful than them, but they aren't. It is always your choice in the end. It is always 100% of the time your choice. I've relapsed on my past addictions many times before, and every single time it was because I folded and gave in to these manipulative thoughts sent by the lower self. You are the one in control. You decide whether you end up as your lower self or your higher self. The truth about conquering these thoughts is that you won't always win. Even though it is your choice, you will give in sometimes. The goal is to win against these thoughts as much as you can. Even the most disciplined and successful person succumbs to the lower self sometimes. The key is that they win 9 out of 10 times so that one loss doesn't affect them that much. Most people win 0 out of 10 times and just give in right away when their lower self tells them to. It's a muscle that must be trained just like working out. Every time you successfully withdraw your attention and return to the present moment, you get a bit better. Meditation is insanely good for this. When you meditate, you practice taking your power back away from your thoughts by focusing on the present moment when you feel a thought surface. As you keep at this process of no longer listening to the thoughts sent by the lower self, you will get better at understanding your thought patterns. Always write down what you observe about yourself so you never forget it. And remember, failure is never a bad thing. Every single failure brings you one step closer to mastery. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and then go watch another one of my old ones. Subscribe if you really liked the video and you look forward to learning more next time. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you have a great day.